Ever since I was a child, I've turned it over in my mind. I sang by the piano, tore my yellow dress.
Definition of judgment: discriminating someone based upon their group membership or category. The films and literature we have analysed this year have a common theme on how judgment of many types influences lives and affects society every day since the past to current day. Analysing books and films such as The Great Gatsby, A Lesson Before Dying, The Catcher in the Rye, and The Things They Carried, and V for Vendetta. A common theme that stood out was judgment. No matter what the setting, non-fiction or fiction, there are evidences of prejudice throughout the plots. Characters, no matter the age or race or status in society, acquire the beliefs about a person without truly knowing them.
Judgment of someone else is when you hold them to a certain standard of behavior or choices or things like that. And it can be fair, like laws, or it can be where we all agree to the same thing, or it can be unfair in situations where the other person has not agreed to the same things that you're thinking about, but you hold them to those anyway.